tell you that I love the people of Acadia Parish. I love the work ethic. I love the pride in the last 6 years. I want to do something about that. I believe they had one trial, and that was recently. I believe we need to try more cases. I believe we need to move these cases to the courts so that our victims can have some justice, so that the people in jail can have their day in court, and so that our citizens can have justice. I pledge to you that I will do that. I will do that with no qualms. And I pledge to you that I will listen to the problems of your constituents. If you send them to talk to me, we will talk to them. If they can't make it to the office, I pledge to you today that I will meet with them. There's no reason why we can't meet in somebody's business or house if they can't get to the office. I passed out a lot of personal business cards. My cell number is on there. Again, I pledge to you that I will be available to everyone, constituents, elected officials, law enforcement. I will work with law enforcement to solve our problems. If anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And I thank you so much for giving me this time. The staff was very, very nice to us in setting this up for us. We missed a meeting a while back, and I apologize for that. I called each and every one of you and reached out to you to explain to you what happened, and I hope you'll forgive me for that. But I'm here today to ask you all for your support and to ask for the support of your constituents. Thank you so very much. Yes, sir.
Did you give any thought to the conversation you had about the juveniles?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll call on that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We are absolutely looking into that, and you raised some very meeting.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donald.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Braylon Harris.
I do know his wife is a classmate of mine, and she is from Crowley, but their house was destroyed in a hurricane in Lake Charles in the hurricane. So I don't know if
Okay.
he said before, maybe he'll contact y'all, but I do know that their house was completely destroyed.
Okay,
So,
okay, Mr. Harris is not here then. Next, under agenda amendments, we do have a capital outlay request. If someone wants to make a motion to amend the agenda, Mr. Mader does have some capital outlay requests that need to be voted on.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Mr. Mader.
Are you going to assign it to another place on the agenda?
Yes, we can take that up. If you want, we can take that up in the engineer's report. We can do it there. Very good. Okay, next will be approval of minutes. Okay, approval of the minutes for the, let's see, the regular council meeting and the 2 special council meetings.
Offer.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next is the sales tax chart. And for the year, we are showing a 5.45% increase. As you can see, the last month's report was an increase of almost 180,000. Any questions? Thank you. We'll go to the sewer user. We're also showing an increase there. And for the year, it's showing 6.53%. Any questions? Yeah, Mr. Ford.
Do we know what the percentage is from the time that the fee was implemented, the increase to date?
I looked at it, with my husband the other day, we were looking at from when it was increased to the last 4 months, and it was an average of 20%.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Next is the budget analysis. And there, everything is under, except the infrastructure account, and that is because of the drainage project. Until that, that amendment is done, Madam Clerk, okay.
Point of order. When you just mentioned this is a what? A budget what? What are we looking at? A min?
No.
Budget analysis for what? For the whole city as a whole?
Yes,
Okay, that needs to be cleared up. Okay, thank you.
yes. So, any other questions there? Thank you. Okay, we'll move into standing committee reports. Public Works, Mr. Crater.
Steve,
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem.
you got some speed cords, you ought to pick up.
Okay, I don't have the cards. Okay, Mr. Hughes, did you need to speak again?
I want to speak on
Okay, Mr. Crater, continue then, and you can speak at that time.
Thank you. The Public Works Committee convened Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020 at 4 p.m. in the council chambers, and a quorum was present. Under action items, a motion was offered by myself and seconded by Alderman Brad Ford to approve partial payment estimate number 3 to Southern Constructors Incorporated for the citywide drainage improvement project in the amount to be presented by the city engineer at the September 9th, 2020 regular monthly meeting of the city council. And that motion carried. And I so move.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second discussion.
The number, the amount,
Okay, the amount?
yes, that is $266,931.01. 266,931.01.
Anything further? Ms. Stringfellow?
Thank you, and this will be on fiscal year 2019?
The accountant, CPA told us that this would be 2019, 2020 expense because the work occurred in that fiscal year.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Motion was offered by Alderman Lyle Fulton and seconded by Alderman Brad Ford to approve change order number 2 in the amount of $42,504.60 under the Southern Constructors Incorporated contract for the citywide drainage improvements project to extend drainage improvements along the south side of First Street between the outfall ditch near Avenue M and the Acadia Council on Aging office. That motion carries, and I so move.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Mr. Cavell?
Mr. Mayor, this work has not been done yet, correct?
That's correct.
So this will go on the 2020, 2021 budget year.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The motion was offered by Alderman Brad Core and seconded by Alderman Lyle Fogelman to approve change order number 3 in the amount of $24,083 under the Southern Constructors Incorporated contract for the citywide drainage improvements project to complete the replacement of a manhole and street inlet and installation of a sanitary sewer main conflict box at the intersection of Avenue G and First Street. That motion carried, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The motion was offered by myself and seconded by Alderman Brad Core to adopt a resolution confirming and reauthorizing the March 11th, 2020 resolution of the City of Crowley, Louisiana, to incur debt and to borrow from the Louisiana Local Government Environmental Facilities and Community Development Authority an amount not to exceed $20 million for the purpose of financing costs of engineering, construction, additions, acquisitions, repairs, and/or expansions needed for the citywide street improvements, including drainage and providing for other matters in connection with the foregoing. That motion carried, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion.
Question.
Okay, I'll get to everyone. Mr. Martin?
Mayor, when will, once this thing is instituted, when will it, begin?
If I could, I'd like to call on Jay Delafield, who is here tonight, to answer such questions. He's your bond counsel. Jay?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. When will, once this, everything is facilitated, when will the work begin?
The work will begin after the bonds are issued.
Okay, when will, that's one action, when will everything be facilitated? Bond issue, we gotta go in front of the bond commission, or I had that already been?
No, sir, that's already been approved by the bond commission and the LCDA.
So the LCD, so you're looking at about, what, 60 days?
We're looking at probably selling the bonds early October, closing sometime early November.
Around 60 days?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll be able to, okay, thank you.
Mr. Craig?
Mr. Delafield, it's been brought to our attention that this project is going to be funded through the infrastructure fund and the half-cent sales tax.
Yes, sir.
And my concern is, I think we have another 7 or 7.5 years left on this half-cent sales tax. And what happens if that doesn't get renewed or approved by the voters? And how are we going to pay for these bonds? This note coming up, I'm sure it's going to deplete that infrastructure fund probably completely and then some. So, or is there any contingencies or anything being made in the event that that happens?
The reason we went to the Louisiana Community Development Authority is because they have a particular legal implement that they use for purposes of securing transactions just like this, and that is, it's called lawfully available funds. And that is your sales taxes are pledged and any other revenues that you may have available to pay debt service in the bonds, which is a recognized security trap essentially in the municipal marketplace. So you're pledging more than just the half-cent sales tax. In the event that you're able to remove the half-cent sales tax, of course, it will be available as well.
But in the event we can't,
If you can't, you have other funds that are available to pay debt service on the bonds. That's something that is ultimately going to fall to the disclosure document, which is the official statement that we put out there for the public to take a look at Crowley. And we will have a rating on the bonds. We'll probably present this to the rating agencies within the next 2 weeks or so. A draft of the official statement has already been prepared. And Whitley Laird is here with Stifel Nicholas, who is the underwriter on the bonds, and she will present that to the rating agencies. We will have a rating conversation, and they will give you the appropriate rating on the bonds. The bonds will be sold after the rating is announced by Standard & Poor's Corporation.
Mr. Reggie?
So when does the percentage come out? After the bond or percentage rate? What we pay back?
The actual interest rate will be fixed at the time the bonds are sold. And I can have Ms. Laird come up here and explain to you how that's done.
Yeah, I think they had set up to 7%,
That's right.
Not to exceed.
exceed 7%. I guess for me, it just seems a little high. We set it maybe at 5.
Like Jay said, in about 2 weeks, we will present to the rating agency, Standard & Poor's in this case. They will come back with a rating on the transaction, looking at various medians and financial position of the city. After we get that rating, we drop it into what we call a preliminary official statement, and Stifel markets that document to investors. So after the rating, I would say it's about 10 days before we officially enter into an order period where we do set the rate. 7% is high. I do not expect to come anywhere close to that. I think I ran it last Wednesday when I was here, and I think the percentages range from 3.25 to like 3.75 as far as the true interest cost.
I was the only no vote the last time around because of the interest being so high. So I just wanted to make sure that it was 5 at the max. I don't know if we could deal with that next time. Or do we have to go on that now? For the interest rate for it.
What happens is, when we do bond transactions, we put a not to exceed number on both the principal value of the transaction as well as the interest rate and the term. And the reason for that is the bond commission has to hang out numbers on each one of those parameters in order to approve your transaction. They have approved it at not to exceed 7%. We do not anticipate 7%. In the event, give you a classic example. When the first Desert War happened in 1991-92, I was selling some bonds for sulfur, and the interest rate that we anticipated at the time we structured the transaction before the attack began was somewhere around 4%. Overnight, it went to 11%. We pulled that transaction and did not go forward. You will have an opportunity through your mayor to determine whether or not those interest rates that are reported back to you by Ms. Laird are acceptable. But as you heard her say, it's between 3.25 and 3.75 at this point.
So we would lock it in now.
It will be locked in as soon as she sells the bonds and gets orders for the bonds.
Anyone else? Mr. Martin?
Have y'all, dealt with the LMA and see what the rate was in them?
No, sir, we do not deal with the LMA. The LMA is an association, but they do not purchase the bonds, they do not sell the bonds. This is a market transaction put out there to the interest rate purchasers, for bonds throughout the United
I
States.
understand what you're saying, I'm part of the LMA, no, we don't do bonds, but at the end of the day, their job is to guide this body here on the,
That's correct.
way, okay? So I would tell this council before we do anything, this needs to be ran through them. They get paid to dot the i's and cross the t's, okay? And at 7%, there's no way in the world, that's just me, but at 7%, that's like canceling Christmas right there. You say you look at 3 point what?
Between 3.25 and 3.75. And I'll mention that LMA, the LCBA, the authority that we're actually going through, was actually created by the LMA.
That's what I
And the members of the LMA sit on the board of that
Well,
authority.
that's what I'm
So
saying, so when he says
They
that
have
we
authorized.
don't, directly we don't, but we
That's right.
do.
that's right.
Okay, just make that clear.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, the members of the LMA are very familiar with this and have used this mechanism quite often.
so you spoke to Ms. Cohen and all,
So who's that?
what's it,
Mr. Carlos?
Carl.
Yeah,
Carl. I
Mr.
said
Carlos.
Carl.
In fact, they've got a meeting tomorrow, so they'll be.
I know they got executive. Okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Mr. Mayor?
Let me assure the council and everyone here that when we presented spreadsheets showing you the cash flow, the term of the payback bond issue was based on numbers that we said could be afforded. And we did that a year ago, gonna have to reassess it when the bonds are sold and are about to be sold, and you know what that interest rate is. I can tell you personally, I would not allow this thing to go forward if the rate was so high that it basically took the spreadsheet that we gave you and set it aside. We're gonna be sure that the interest rate and the projected cost when the time comes are gonna allow the city to repay those bonds without any trouble. And I would predict that 6% won't work, and 5% won't work, and maybe 4.5% won't work. I don't know, we'll know when the time comes. But the 7% ceiling is in no way commanding city council to selling bonds at 7%, and I wouldn't let that happen.
Why did we use 7% as a ceiling? Normally, 4% would be your normal ceiling. Okay, the ones that I've been dealing with. Okay, why did y'all set the ceiling at 7%?
Simply because of the fact that what we're trying to do is anticipate market changes.
I understand that.
In the event that something happens out in the marketplace that pushes the interest rate above the 4% level, we'd have to start all over again. The whole legal process would have to start over again.
If I could add to that, if the interest rate were to go higher, it would also be possible that the estimated cost could go lower, so the higher interest rate, to a degree, could be afforded. So what we did in including that ceiling of 7% gave us the leeway to decide, once we're about to sell the bonds and we know a little bit better about the construction cost, whether we still have a project.
Mr. Craig?
And Mr. Mayor, and that goes back to my comment about the sales tax, that if it doesn't get approved, I guess I'm a worry ward. That really, really concerns me, that if the voters don't approve a renewal of this 0.5% sales tax, and we're locked into this $20 million, I don't think that was anywhere in that schedule that you gave it. I mean, I'm concerned about the interest rates also, but not nearly as much as I am about that sales tax not getting renewed and us having to be on the hook for that. So, yeah, but I just think it's a consideration we need to think about. I don't know if anybody really put a pencil to it, but it wasn't in your schedule under that.
It may not have been in my schedule, but that fact was presented to the council a year ago. All that was presented as how the LCDA allows you to bond in that amount, even if something happens in 7.5 years. That Jay just explained that.
If I could add to that, just, and I think I might have mentioned it last week, one of the things we did in creating that schedule and running the numbers was we didn't use current sales tax collections, we used historical, which turned out to be a good move because we ran into a pandemic that did cause sales tax. Now, unfortunately, it's come back and we're still up, but the numbers we used in there were conservative look. It's actually less than we currently are now. So there is some cushion built in there for occurrences just as that. We certainly hope that the tax continues to grow. With regards to the interest rate, there's nothing magic about 7%. Why it was used in there, it's a not to exceed rate. We were fortunate in this case that during that pandemic period, rates actually went down, so we continue to stay in a strong market. But as Jay mentioned, we go to the bond commission, get their approval well in advance of issuing the bonds. We never want to go to the bond commission and request something too low, and we come back and rates are high, so we downsize the issue, but you can't issue because the rates are high. We don't ever expect to reach that, and certainly, as Mr. Mader mentioned, we're not going to recommend that. But at the time the initial resolution was done, you go to the bond commission, you're always going to set those parameters high. Was it higher than, could we done at 6% probably in this market? Yes, but you'll see a lot of 7% at the bond commission just as the kind of not to exceed resolution, but we certainly don't expect that rate. Good market.
Mr. Mayor?
Just one last thing is, let's remember too that we have a very promising tourism type project in terms of the turf and the lighting and the tournament schedule each year that's supposed to increase your sales tax collections on any amount quite a bit over the course of the year. So if you have that in your field.
Mr. Martin?
Is the city putting up any hard collateral?
I'm sorry?
Does the city have to put in the hard collateral?
No, it's just an obligation to pay for available funds.
Anyone else? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Steve, didn't y'all last week say y'all was gonna reduce it from 20,000 to 14,000? Y'all just approved 20,000.
No, but it's gonna be done in two different times. You're gonna start with 14 and then draw the rest at a later date.
Okay, I got another question also. So the money that we have available in the fund, can we use that money for projects in the future?
Yes, in the infrastructure account.
Yes. That's not, you can still touch the funds.
For, I
You
think
got a
Mr.
bridge-
Maynard may be able to explain
You
that
got a
better.
bridge to replace, you got fire station, you got wastewater.
Tim?
The infrastructure fund is available to anything that you would have been using it for, regardless of the bond issue. Bond issue doesn't freeze in the event.
Okay. Mr. Crater?
You got something to say?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't here at the meeting.
You mind still?
You just brought up something. We had talked about, the fire station or whatever. Why wasn't all that included? So we could lock in all this at one time. Because your piece, you see, that's something that you know that this thing will be taken in two parts. Okay, you're doing a 14 and then you're doing a 6 layer. Am I understanding that right?
Yeah, the project, which consists of street improvements and the drainage improvements that are going on right now, are how we estimated the 20 million. 20 million is for those improvements, nothing more.
Well, how many do we have in the front of the street?
In your infrastructure fund,
Right.
I'm understanding it's 9 to 10 million.
Okay. If we got 9 to 10 million, the person that just came to the microphone has a valid point. If this 20 million is gonna cover, it'll cover turnkey, Jeff?
Yeah, the 20 million will pay a part of the program, but we're gonna be using some infrastructure funds in the long run that will detract from that 9 or 10 million that's in the fund balance now.
Okay, but is there any way possible that once the bonds are sold and we lock in the APR of it, this citizen just in need of a fire station. Okay? We have firemen living in conditions that my dog, asleep better than that. Bone and everything else, we tried, I don't know how much money we spent on that station. I love the station as being the historical site, but not as a resident. Okay? And we have an obligation as a council to protect them. I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. How about now, can you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. We have a responsibility to each one of these employees. We've been kicking the can down the road since I've been on the council. Every year the same, but we put money into it, we've done the roof, we've done the windows, we've done the bricks. I mean, case after case, if we had put the money together that we put into that building, we could have built 3 fire stations right now. So what I'm asking this council to do is do our due diligence. And I don't know how much money will be left over inside that fund, but I would ask this council to at least, let's look into trying to get this thing done. Okay? Even if we buy a building with, in other words, let's put them in something safe. They got properties, what I'm understanding, behind the building that's for sale. Okay, I don't know what it's going for, I don't even know what is it commercial or what, I'm not sure. But what I'm asking the council to do is that we look into taking care of our employees. Okay? And that's, I just want to bring in, and I appreciate, that, everyone. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay. All in favor? We already voted on that, right? Okay. Yes, next one, Mr. Crater.
Okay, a motion was offered by Lyle Folkman and seconded by myself to authorize Mater Engineering Incorporated to prepare the plans and specifications for the city parking lot improvements as noted on exhibit number 1, pre-turf project estimates, and exhibit number 2, post-turf project estimates. Exhibits attached hereto and made a part hereof. That motion carried. And I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion. Okay, Mr. Crater?
And just to be clear, this is just to prepare plans and specifications. This is, and get an estimate on what the cost is.
Plans and specifications will be prepared, we'll bring you a final estimate, and then you will authorize, you would approve the plans and specifications and authorize the bid process if you so desire.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, motion carries. Mr. Crater?
Under non-action items, Public Works Director, Mr. Albert John, presented the monthly Public Works report. He reassured the committee the city was spraying every night for the heavy influx of mosquitoes due to Hurricane Laura. The nightly spraying would continue until it was no longer needed. And I want to thank the police jury for their area spraying because it really helped. Street Commissioner, Mr. Gilbert Ozine, presented the monthly Street Commissioner's report. His employees were very busy during and after Hurricane Laura. They have cut over 50 trees and removed numerous limbs, filled approximately 4,500 sandbags, and cleaned street gutters. City Engineer, Mr. Tim Mader, presented the monthly engineer's report and introduced bond counsel Jay Delafield and financial consultants Whitney Lord and Sean Toops to make a presentation to the committee on the bond issue for drainage and street improvements funding. There was no further business to come before the Public Works Committee, and that committee recessed.
Thank you, Mr. Crater. Utility Committee, Mr. Martin.
This time I yield to Vice Chair.
Mr. Reggie.
Thank you. Utility Committee convened Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020 at 4 p.m. in the council chambers. A quorum was present. Under action items, a motion was made by myself and seconded by Alderman Jeff Cavell to recommend an ordinance to be introduced by resolution at September 9th, 2020 regular council meeting to change the current sewer usage fee formula based on the August 17, 2020 certification provided to the council, and with said resolution also include a provision that would exempt the Acadia Parish Detention Center from having to pay the sewer usage fee rate for customers located inside the city limits. Motion carried with myself, Alderman Fogelman, and Alderman Cavell voting in favor, and Alderman Crater voting nay. Under non-action items, wastewater superintendent.
Wait, that's an action item, Sandy.
Oh, I feel so. Okay, then I so.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second, discussion. Okay, who was first? Stay open.
All right, just a point of clarity here. They say the Acadia Parish Detention Center?
Yeah, it's the sheriff's office and the jail.
Okay. Unless I'm mistaken, the detention center used to be the prison next door. Okay?
Correct.
All right. So, I mean, that needs to be pointed out right here. As a point of order, you're saying the detention center is closed. So is it actually the Acadia Parish Sheriff's Department?
It is the sheriff's department and the detention center.
Well, I think it needs to be addressed as the Acadia Parish Sheriff's Department and the detention center. There's two different.
Well, it is, Steph, in their actual resolution, it does state that.
The but this is the motion that you voted on. You have to have clarity.
I understand what you're saying, I'm telling you, in the actual resolution, it does state that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Crater?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, I did reach out to Ms. Terry Castfield, and she referred me to Leslie Durham, who you also referred to. And I spoke to Ms. Durham at length about our sewer user fee. And what she said was the first thing you have to do is have an independent rate study done. She said you don't know where you are, you don't know if you're charging too much or you're charging too little, and the only way to know that and to determine that is with an independent rate study. She told me that the government reimburses the city so it doesn't cost the city anything. And it's the Louisiana Rural Water Association, Mr. Rusty Reed. She gave me his number, his contact information. And she told me, she said, it will tell you where you are, where you should be, and any options that are needed. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And I would implore this council to take her advice, as we were told last week, and reach out to these people. If it's not gonna cost us anything, I think it would be well worth the time and the effort to see exactly what they suggest, because they are the authority on these rural rates and what we should be doing. So that's my take on it. I have to compliment her. I have the contact names and numbers if somebody wants to reach out to them. But I think it would be well worth our time and effort to reach out to these people and let them do an independent rate study as she suggested, and see where we come out with that, and then will tell us, what our options are and where we are and where we should be.
And if I may respond, we did that. We reached out to LRWA, and one of their agents, Todd Absher, actually attended our committee meetings, and he assisted us all along the way to, he didn't do a study, but you did have an independent study done, because your ordinance calls for an independent study done by your city engineer, your city auditor, and the city clerk. So we met her advice by having an independent study, and we further met her advice by having LRWA agent Todd Absher assist us through the process.
Yes, Mr. Craig.
So why not let them do a study and come back with their recommendations as an independent? I mean, this is who she recommended and what she recommended we do. So I would be in favor of taking her advice and doing it.
Mr. Cabell?
I understand where you're coming from, but, we have an independent, we hire an independent, Mr. Mayor. We had an independent and an auditor. We actually had to get the city attorney, CPA, who wrote a letter in favor. We had a committee of independent, we had an independent committee that was formed by the council. We were adhering to the ordinance, which the council approved. Mr. Abshire was at the meeting. I recall him specifically stating that he didn't find fault in what Mr. Mayor had presented, that although he does not make the decision and can tell us what to do and what not to do, he says if we don't adhere, just as Ms. Durham's letter mentioned, to what the recommendation is, not anybody's definition other than what the state's definition, we can forget about grants or loans through the state, which we depend on. If ever there was an issue time where we're kicking the can down the road, now's it. I don't know what more you think, because my question would be is, if after this supposed independent study that you want to get again, comes back stating the same, what next is going to happen? What other hurdles going to be put about?
Hold on. Just
Because I can tell you, well, let me just finish. I can tell you now, the 20% that you're hoping to gain as far as enough is not gonna be enough. And it's only gonna cause us to have another finding and put us in a financial situation where we not have enough money in an infrastructure fund, replacement fund for equipment that we're gonna need down the line, more so now than ever with the aging equipment we have. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ford had his hand up first.
I'm a little confused. The letter that we, who read it here, Mr. Mayor, was that letter written to the City of Crowley on behalf of our current rates, criticizing or critiquing them by saying they were too low? Or was, did Ms. Durham say that our rates were too low based on her review of what was presented? I'm a little confused.
Ms. Durham responded to the mayor, a request that he made that she attend the meeting and speak, and she could not do that. But what she said in the email, and it's somewhere in the file here, I can reread it if you helpful, but what she said was, I've already explained to you what she did, that based on what Jeff just said, that you have to do a study. It has to show that your revenues beat expenses. And if you can't show that, then you're going to be hard pressed to get grants and loans. And she named, I guess, half a dozen acronyms of places where we can get grants and loans. She did not do a study. She would not do a study. That's not what she does. In her role as Delta Regional Authority assignee by the governor, she just kind of oversees what's going on. She recommended the same thing that Clint just suggested, that we go to LRWA. We did that. Mr. Asher didn't do a study, but he would have used the same exact figures we use. He wouldn't have had anything else to use except your CPA's or your auditor's numbers for the fiscal year 18-19. He had a copy of that. He had a copy of our calculations. He endorsed everything at the time we had the meeting. So I guess we could get him to do it in writing on paper, but he's already served the purpose that Ms. Dewar referred to. He looked at what we did and he found a fault.
Right, but what I'm saying is that Ms. Durham's email letter was just a general letter that would be given to any municipality, not just specific to what Crowley has currently on this.
She wrote an email to the mayor. And
Well, I understand it was addressed to the mayor, but the information in it was very general, it wasn't specific to our current rates.
Subject to interpretation, but she wrote a heartfelt email in response to the mayor's request that she come to the meeting.
Well, I guess my point is, was she provided with all of your documentation to review?
Was she provided with all my documentation?
Right, to come up with the rate study that was
No,
performed?
she wouldn't take it. She wouldn't do
Right,
anything.
okay, so that was just a more.
She was telling us that if we didn't get the revenues and expenses on par with each other, that we would not get grants, and she knows that because she is over the agency that gives grants.
Sure, but that would, information would have been provided to any municipality about the general performance on the rates.
Okay, Mr. Martin, Kim.
Okay, Brian. The letter that you read, what was her recommendation? Was her recommendation to get an independent study?
She gave me the name, Mr. Rusty Reeves, from Louisiana Rural Water Association. He's in Kinder, Louisiana, has a cell phone number, and 2 other numbers for him, and that's what she recommended, that we get this guy to look at it, but
So this is in writing. That's her opinion of what's the next step to, okay. I'm not an independent, person that does the rate studies. Yeah, I believe, like I said, I'm with you 100% on everything. But anytime a person, and I don't care, it could be a total different scenario here. When a person's in charge of handing out, quote unquote, what his grants would have, tells you that it would be a good idea to get an independent study, but guess what? That needs to be here. Okay? Now, I wasn't at the last meeting, I'm learning a lot tonight, but at the end of the day, there's a reason for someone to come out and say, I don't know if the words were you might want to or you need to. But the fact of the matter is, what's the harm in getting the independent study when it doesn't cost the city not one penny? Okay? I'm asking the question, what's the harm? Okay, now, we keep talking about it's gonna delay grants and all this other stuff. Well, suppose the independent study comes where the city doesn't need to do anything. Right? At least we can fall back when the citizens ask the question, why did y'all raise my utilities or whatever it may be? This is our backlog. And we have, and we can say, we done the independent study, this is what we came up with right here. Okay? That's just my opinion.
Okay, I don't know who was next.
I'd just like to answer.
Okay, Mr. Prater.
I'd like to answer Mr. Cavell's question about what happens if we do this. I'll give you my word right now in front of God and everybody, all the witnesses. Whatever this guy says that we do, I'll vote for it. And I don't know what else I could do.
Ms. Stringfellow.
Thank you. Well, I would just like to say that Ms. Leslie Durham, we asked her opinion. And, you know, she was the one that said that we could get the free rate study. And also, when Mr. Mayor was reading her letter last week and discussing grants, we don't have a grant writer, so we can just kind of, you know, void that issue, you know, not having a grant writer kind of, you know, make, you know, we don't really need to talk about not getting grants.
Mr. Cavell.
Mr. Prater, if you don't mind, and thank you for that promise. Did Ms. Durham mention who had to be the independent consultant, or she only referred you to that one agency because it was free of charge?
I'm just telling you what, my conversation with her, and I was in the middle of trying to salvage things at my camp, so I was, the
Right.
cell phone service was suspect, I guess. So, this is the person that she said she recommended we get to do the service, the rate study. And she said it doesn't cost anything, you know, I don't know why the city wouldn't want to do it, because it's free of charge, so, I mean, that's all, I mean, we can try and get on the
Well,
phone.
you know, and I get it. My thing is this, though, we've already paid for it. We've already got independent studies done.
Who do you
Like
consider
Martin,
independent?
in fact, Mr. Martin should know, over the 20-plus years he's been on the council, we do one every year. The council, wait, I'm finishing, please,
Go
okay.
ahead, since you're involved.
Yeah, since it's an ordinance to do them, we do them. It doesn't, she didn't say that it had to be them, she only recommended them because it's free to municipalities. We're lucky to have someone on staff like Mr. Mader, who is an independent consultant, he's an independent engineer, and does this every year. So we've already done the work. The legwork has been done. Again, like I said, back in March, that wasn't acceptable. So we passed the 20% increase with the concession that a committee would be formed, which it was, to do what? Have more independency and more input. We even got Mr. Charlie Abshar. Yes, sir. Last meeting, we had to have city CPA write information about it. He agrees.
Can we call
I
the
don't-
question? Can we just call the
Yeah,
question?
I don't understand.
Okay, question has been called.
You still have to have a vote on calling the question. Robert's rule. So, my thing is, I agree, and I like your promise. But again, it's kicking the can down the road. We already have the answer. So, I don't know why we pay for professionals if we're not going to agree to what they have to say. We're going to pay for somebody who's free and take their answer.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I appreciate it. The question's been called. I'd just like to amend a little bit more to help. Rusty Reeves, who you mentioned that you got from Ms. Durham, is Todd Absher's boss. So if you call Rusty Reeves and ask him for the help, he's going to send Todd Absher, who was here. Second thing is you're not going to get a rate study from LRWA. They're going to look at your revenues and expenses and tell you what your deficit is, what you need to do, if you need to do anything, to get your revenues and expenses on par. They do not do rate studies. They're not going to recommend to you how to get that revenue if you do have to increase your rates. And lastly, you do have grant writers. We write very many grants. In fact, the agenda amendment today that you added is for 5 particular grants that we're applying for. We've got a $1.8 million LCDBG grant in the hopper right now. So yes, not getting grants is a problem, and then not being able to get low interest loans, which we've depended on through the SRF fund, is also a big deal. So just want to get those out.
All right, question has been called. I do want to say, though, that you are voting on calling a public hearing, not voting on the actual user fee. You're only voting on calling the public hearing.
Point of order. Point of order. Before we vote on having a public hearing, we need to have the facts in front of us. And the facts are not there if the person that was told to call and get advice, telling the city and this council as a body that we need an independent study. Well, let's get the independent study. Then when we have the public hearing, all the players that took part in it, they have a chance to talk, get the pros and cons. But if you call for a public hearing and then later on decide that's a delay of time. And I don't think you and all are doing it, because before you call for a public hearing, you're supposed to have everything in front of you that would be required for the public to ask questions. Okay? Now, we just had someone, like I said, I wasn't here, but from what I'm hearing, the person that my colleagues were told to call said and recommended that we do a rate study. Well, there's something that person must have seen to where they're not, quote unquote, 100% satisfied what was on paper. So I mean, what's the rush? What is the rush? I mean, I think the vote should be that we go ahead and allow the person that Alderman Curry came up with to do the public. So that would reinforce what Jim is saying, because right now, if you look at it for what it is, if we go to the public and we go ahead and pass this, then all of a sudden, an independent rate study is there, and they say, well, y'all didn't really need it from the jump. Who do you think gonna get thrown under the bus? It's gonna be these council members right here. Okay? So that's just my opinion.
Okay, we're voting on calling a public hearing. Okay? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Jeff Cabell,
Yes.
Brad Core,
No.
Clint Crater,
Nope.
Lyle Coleman,
Yes.
Vernon Martin,
No.
Sammy Reggie,
No.
Grenfell,
No,
and Byron Lewis.
No.
2 yeas, 6 nays.
Okay, motion fails. Okay, Mr. Reggie, you may continue.
Thank you. Under non-action items, wastewater superintendent Tim Crater presented the monthly wastewater report. City engineer Tim Mader presented the monthly engineer's report, and there was no further business to come before the utility committee and the committee recess.
Thank you. Recreation, Mr. Crater, please.
Thank you. The Recreation Committee meeting convened on Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020, at 4 p.m. in the council chambers, and a quorum was present. Under action items, the motion was made by Alderman Jeff Cabell and seconded by myself to award a base bid for the renovations and repairs to the Rice Festival building in the amount of $249,000, and alternate proposal number 1, $5,900 for the office expansion, for a total of $254,900 to E.L. Habits Builders Incorporated. To authorize change order number 1 to reduce the allowance for the sound system item of work from $25,000 to $20,000, and all contingent upon review and approval of facility planning and control, and upon the recommendation made by architect Joshua Humpire and concurred with by city attorney Tom Reagan after his review of the bids, and the withdrawal by the apparent low bidder. That motion carried, and I so move.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Under non-action items, Peter Kirsch, Recreation Director, presented the monthly Recreation Department report. Tim Mader, City Engineer, presented his monthly engineer's report. And there was no further business to come before the Recreation Committee, with the Recreation Committee recess.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I may, I have a question. I have a question involving the utility committee. I don't know if we would need to reopen it, or I don't even know if what I'm about to request is even possible to be done tonight. But I think given that the public hearing was defeated, the public meeting was defeated, can we set forth a motion to have the study that Mr. Prater proposed be set in motion?
That's under new business.
Or does it have to come up in committee?
It has to come up under new business. When you get to the end, you actually.
Other business, yes.
In other business?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Let's see, you were complete, Mr. Prater?
Yes.
Thank you. Zoning and annexation, Mr. Foley.
Zoning and Annexation Committee convened on Wednesday, September the 2nd, 2020, 4 p.m. in Council Chamber. A quorum was present. Under action items, there were none. Under non-action items, City Engineer Tim Mader presented the monthly engineer's report. There being no further business to come before Zoning and Annexation, the committee recessed.
Thank you, sir. Public Safety Committee, Mr. Core.
Thank you. The Public Safety Committee convened Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020, at 4 p.m. in the council chambers. A quorum was present. Under action items, a motion was offered by myself and seconded by Alderman King Stringfellow to table the action item to consider recommending a resolution introducing ordinance similar to the Acadia Parish Police Jury's recently passed nuisance ordinance until committee member Alderman Vernon Martin is present and information requested by the city attorney is provided to him by the council. The motion carried. During discussion, city attorney Tom Reagan provided copies of the police jury's ordinance and the proposed changes thereto to members of the council. In an email addressed to and read by myself, Mr. Reagan requested the council's review of the ordinance and proposed changes and provide their comments to him as to which provisions they want to include in the city's ordinance. Under non-action items, in the absence of Chief of Police Chief Bruce Ord, Captain Troy Hebert gave a brief report. He noted the department issued 118 TED citations in August. Sergeant Nick Penn provided an update on the Cologic software. In the absence of Inland Fire Chief Terry Romero, I read the monthly fire department report. At this time, I asked to have Mr. Romero, Fire Chief Romero, come up and give us an update on the results of the recent fire rating for the city of Crowley.
Tuesday morning, I went and checked the mail, and I got a letter from PIL, and through the hard work and dedication of myself and my workers, we have been able to retain our Class 2 fire rating.
Anything else, Terry?
Can you clarify, that's going to be the rating that was performed in?
That rating that we got rated on was for all of our work and dedication of the guys of the department from 2019.
So that was prior to the layoffs.
Right, that was prior to the layoffs.
We'll see with any other information you want to share with us.
Well, I mean, would like to see, if the council or if we're waiting on the grant to see if we get the grant to rehire the guys. But, I was confirmed at a fire Monday night that one of the guys that was terminated will not return because he has another job.
Mr. Martin?
First of all, on behalf of those who, deal with these ratings on a day-to-day basis, I want to thank you and your department. For those who don't understand what their class 2 rating is, the only upper rating there is from as a class 1, and there's very few in the whole state. What that does, it brings down insurance, it brings down, it just makes the city more acceptable to people coming in. You got businesses coming in first, and they want to know what's your rate, okay? And while that's being said, I'd like to pass something on to you. Crowley is about to be blessed with another subdivision in the city. We plan on doing the application. Matter of fact, we're in the process of doing the application now. So I was waiting on that. Now that the class 2 has been certified, it's gonna be a no-brainer. So that's the first thing that we're gonna go. We want to know what that rate is going to be. So once again, I commend you and the group. But I tell you guys, ain't no change is coming. I promise you, change is coming. Thank you.
Thank you so much. In the absence of City Attorney Tom Reagan, I read Mr. Reagan's email regarding amendments to ordinances increasing all minimum fines for citations to $100. Mr. Reagan stated the general ordinance does contain authority for the court to impose fines up to $200. In the meantime, Judge Trahan can impose a minimum fine as requested by the council within her discretion. However, I indicated further discussion with Mr. Reagan may be required, as I would like to set the minimum fine at $100. In the absence of Tony Duhan, Code Enforcement Officer, I read the report from Mr. Duhan and a report from Animal Control Officer Cody Monso regarding the recent improvements at the animal shelter. The improvements were paid for by the City of Crowley. There was no further action to come before the Public Safety Committee, and the committee recessed.
Thank you, Mr. Ford.
Point of order. We also making improvements over at the shelter with public fund, I want to say private funds as well. We had a chance to go there, myself. Only thing held us up was I was involved in the crew got stuff, and IGN coming from HR, it's a long story. But the shelter itself is going to be one that I'm pretty sure, well, I'm positive that the City of Crowley is going to be proud of. I want to commend the ladies. Desiree done a heck of a job, and I appreciate the article that was put in the paper. But let's let it be what it is. These ladies are the workers over there. You know, I don't want to take nobody's glory. All right, but when you go there, it's these ladies that sit with these animals. It's these ladies that's bathing these animals and walking these animals. With all due respect to the employee that we have over there, well, that's his job. Okay, these ladies are volunteering. So I just want to make sure that they get their flowers today and tonight, because they deserve it. That shelter has never looked together. Matter of fact, I was about to have to on the team. So I just want to bring that in. That's right.
Thank you.
And the other situation is, I don't know if you have to call Tom this, aren't we supposed to give input? You have an action item over here that was, and I appreciate the fact that you had tabled. Everybody have what he sent, right?
Yes.
Well, we need to go on record as what recommendations, any changes. I think one of the main changes that needs to be in there is tall grass and overgrowth. And also the 15 days from the receipt of the letter. They would have 50, I think, I'm not sure if it's in there, I didn't read all of it. But I don't know if we need to call Tom and see if we need to present any changes to it tonight or not. Because this is an action item.
No, it was tabled So I think it needs to go back to committee next
Well, that's what I'm
month.
asking, so basically, we gonna table it, I thought it was tabled till tonight, so we'll table
No,
it till the next.
till
meeting.
next, till
Not a problem.
committee next month,
Thank you,
and then we can make all those changes.
appreciate it, thank you. No, thank you.
Brad, you through? Okay, thank you. Public buildings, Mr. Welridge.
I'd like to read it about Coach Al was not here.
I'll read that for him. I was here for that one. The Public Buildings Committee convened Wednesday, September 2nd, in the council chambers. Quorum was present. There were no action items. Under non-action items, due to his absence, Mayor Monso provided a report in answer to Alderman Ford's request for information relative to real estate owned by the city that is not essential and that can be sold to generate additional revenue. And I would just like to add that that's a discussion that we will have again, because I don't think that answer was sufficient for some of us. There was no other business to come before Public Committee, Buildings Committee. Did anyone else have anything for that committee? A committee recess.
Thank you. Insurance and personnel,
And I will just continue.
Ms. Stringfellow.
The Insurance and Personnel Committee convened, and we did have a quorum. There were no action items. Under non-action items, Louis Romero, Chairman of the Crowley Municipal Fire and Police Civil Service Board, provided a brief statement read by myself. The Civil Service Board has approved the test scores for the applicants who will administer the test for the fire chief, and the mayor will start the interviewing process. And is there anything else that needs to come before insurance and personnel?
Yes, Madam Chair. Apparently, can I get recognized?
Yes, Mr. Martin.
Thank you. We have in front of us, I don't do Facebook, but seems like Facebook is live and clear. I'm not sure what the City of Crowley articles well, the city has a unique I want to make sure, I'm looking at something, but just bear with me a second, I'm going to read some of this. But inside the city, there's clauses that employees sign. I don't care who you are, what you do, you sign a clause. If you do anything detrimental to the city as a whole, you can be held accountable for it. Like I said, I don't do Facebook, but I had a few people who called me and asked me, "Steph, are you a crony?" I don't know what the hell a crony is. But from researching it, no, I'm not a crony. But this person also used the fact, and I want to read it out. So you cronies have fed me to the news media saying I wanted animals at Crowley. Animals shall be killed. So we have a lot to this. I mean, I'm not going to read it all. But Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, we're going to look at you, at least I'm going to look at you. Because, and I'm going to say this right now in public, and I want everybody to hear this. Two people that you don't want to mess with. Steph Morton is one of them. And I can't say that this is a direct attack to me because it doesn't have my name. But if that person would be so bold and to put, whether it's Vernon Steph Morton will handle his business here. Okay? I've had questions. Wait. It's all written right
We're not
here.
doing agenda, we're going to have this discussion.
As I was saying, okay? If you the city of Crowley, we represent the city of Crowley. Okay? Now, Mr. Carvell, since you had a little something to say, I have this post from back in the day as well.
Steph.
But anyway, what I'm asking you to do as Mayor Pro Tem, okay, do your damn job. Right now, you are the sitting authority in that seat. Okay? We have someone.
Again, point of order,
No, hold on, hold on. Step, wait, hold on just a second.
Okay.
I have been given authority to run the meetings. I have not been given authority to run everyday business.
Oh, you have?
No, I have not. So,
I'll take that back.
thank you.
I
So,
apologize.
I would ask if you don't mind that we can move on now.
Well, but, Stephen, we can move on, but this right here is a blatant disrespect for every council member here.
Okay, but let's move on with the meeting and
Okay.
take it up at a later date.
I'll take care of me. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.
Okay, Ms. Stringfellow, are you complete? Okay. Community and Economic Development, Mr. Reggie.
Thank you. The Community and Economic Development Committee convened Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020 at 4 p.m. in the council chambers. A quorum was present. Under action items, there were none. Under non-action items, there were none. There was no business to come before Community and Economic Development Committee, and the committee recessed.
Thank you, Mr. Reggie. Revenue and Finance Committee, Mr. Cavell.
The Revenue Finance Committee convened on Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020 at 4 p.m. in the council chambers. A quorum was present. Under action items, due to prior action being taken during the Utility Committee meeting, no action was necessary in the Revenue and Finance Committee on the item to recommend a resolution introducing an ordinance to adjust the sewer user fee formula as recommended and the August 17, 2020 certification signed by City Clerk Aaron Prater, City Engineer Tim Mader, City Auditor Rob Carter. That item has already been discussed. On to non-action items. Due to his absence, Mayor Monso provided a written report in answer to Alderman Corr's request that the administration advise the committee of its efforts to increase revenue. There was no further business coming forward.
Mr. Cavell, you have some added items.
Where is that?
On the sheet.
It's on my sheet. It's right there. Okay.
You've got 4 items.
Bear with me, please. Yeah, thank you. So under action items, back in action items, resolution of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen for the City of Crowley, City Parish, Louisiana, introducing an ordinance for the annual budget for the fiscal year 2021, and fixing the date for a public hearing to be held to consider an adoption of the annual budget for fiscal year 2021, and authorizing publication of notice of a public hearing and availability of the proposed annual budget for fiscal year 2021, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Again, this is to call a public hearing on the budget. Any discussion? Well, this is to call a public hearing. The discussion will come at the public hearing and then afterwards to vote on it. So, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Jeff Cavell,
Yes.
Brad Ford,
Yes.
Clint Prater,
Yes.
Don Fullerman,
Yes.
Vernon Martin,
Yes.
Sammy Reggie,
Yes.
Kim Stringfellow,
Yes.
and Byron Brewer.
Yeah.
Thank you. Continue, Mr. Cavell.
Under other action item, resolution adopting the journal.
Wait, hold on just a moment. Just a moment. We need to set a date. It will go to the paper when, Aaron?
It can go to the paper as soon as tomorrow.
Okay, so
Media hearing.
Publishing date.
the special meeting can be called as early as September 28th, or you could do it at the committee meetings on October 7th, or the regular meeting on the 14th. So that's the wishes of the,
Say that again, Steve.
a special meeting can be held on the 28th of September, or the public hearing, I'm sorry, or the public hearing can be held on the October 7th or October 14th. Just a moment. So if y'all wanna come up with a date,
What's the next committee?
October 7th.
You need a motion for
What we need, yes, we need y'all to come up with a date, whether you wanna have a special meeting for the public hearing, or have it at committee, or next month's regular meeting. Ms. Stringfellow?
I move that we have it at our committee meeting on October 7th.
that?
Okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so it will be set for October 7th. Desiree, what you got?
Question of clarification, when was the council provided with another copy of the budget? Because I was not.
Yesterday afternoon.
I have not been provided with a copy of the budget at all.
You can pick one up at City Hall tomorrow.
It's closed, how do I get it?
Call.
All
Set it up. Call and set it up. I'll be there in a few minutes. I'd like a copy of the budget.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay, so October 7th will be the public hearing, before committee. Okay, Mr. Cabell, you can continue.
Number 2, a resolution adopting the general alimony adjusted millages rates in the city of Crowley for 2020 tax year. And I so move.
Motion and a second, any discussion?
Are we rolling over to the?
Yes, Steph, and that'll come up in the next one, okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, that's gonna be roll call.
That's a roll call, yes.
Jeff Cabell,
Yes.
Brad Core,
Yes.
Clint Prater,
Yes.
Lyle Fogelman,
Yes.
Vernon Martin,
Yes.
Sammy Reggie,
Yes.
Kim Stringfellow,
Yes.
and Byron Miller.
Yes.
8 days.
Okay, motion carries. Mr. Cabell?
Resolution which sets forth the general alimony adjusted millage rent and roll forward to millages rates not exceeding the maximum authorized rate in the city of Crowley for 2020 tax year, and I so move.
Motion and a second, discussion. Now, Steph, that is where we roll forward. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, roll call.
Jeff Cabell,
Yes.
Brad Core,
Yes.
Clint Prater,
Yes.
Lyle Fogelman,
Yes.
Vernon Martin,
Yes.
Sammy Reggie,
Yes.
Kim Stringfellow,
Yes.
and Byron Miller.
Yes.
8 days.
Motion carries. Mr. Cabell, number 4.
Resolution to adopt all other authorized millages rates in the city of Crowley for 2020 tax year, and I so move.
Second.
Motion and a second, discussion. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, roll call.
Jeff Cabell,
Yes.
Brad Core,
Yes.
Clint Prater,
Yes.
Lyle Fogelman,
Yes.
Vernon Martin,
Yes.
Sammy Reggie,
Yes.
Kim Stringfellow,
Yes.
and Byron Miller.
Yes.
8 days.
Motion carries. All right, engineers report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. This is the item that was an amendment to the agenda. I think you all have a one-page explanation and then the motion itself. I'll read the motion and then happy to answer any questions you have. We're asking that you authorize the submittal of the fiscal year 2021-2022 State of Louisiana capital outlay request for public sewage system expansion along north of I-10 Service Road, for restoration and rehabilitation of the Rice Community Theater, for renovations and repairs to the Rice Festival Building, for the ultraviolet disinfection system improvements at the City of Crowley's wastewater treatment facility, for the installation of a commoner at the City of Crowley's main sewage pump station, for the City of Crowley Pavilion, and for the City of Crowley RV campground for the recreation center. those projects are the same projects that we submitted last year. They're all due by November 1st, and we're asking for your approval so that we can get busy with them. You may wonder why some of these have to be applied for, since we're already using some of the money, and that's just the state policy is until you close out one of their capital outlay projects, you have to reapply for it every year. So we're just doing what we're told to do. So I would appreciate if you would consider approving that motion so that we can get busy and have those applications in by November 1st.
Point of order. If I may.
Yes, Mr. Martin.
Chairman, is there anything?
Wait, just a moment. We need a motion in a second, then we'll have
I
discussion.
move, with a question.
Well, let's have the motion in a second.
All for it.
Okay, we have a motion in a second, discussion. Go ahead.
Chairman.
Right.
And I'm just asking these, my fellow council members, we just went through something, we've been going through it a while. Last time it was Hurricane Rita that came through here 15 years ago to the exact date almost. And we had the same problem then that we had this time. And that was to take care of our citizens at the time of need. Chairman, is there any way, I know this capital outlay request, they only request, I understand. And I would ask this council whether we need to adopt provisions at the next meeting or what have you. But the City of Crowley, being the seat of Acadia Parish, I feel that it is indebted upon us to provide safety for people, elderly, handicapped, or people that in dire need or in distress, to have a place where we can bring our citizens and try and render some type of relief, whether it be a place, a cooling place, if the lights out for 3 or 4 days, water, doctors, whatever they need, whether it's from the youngest to the oldest. I was appalled at the fact that we didn't have a building, okay? And I know there's certain specifications that has to be submitted into, the showers and all the rest of this. But I think it's time that we venture out. I think it's time that we can spend $5.something billion on the baseball field. I think it's time for us to put something in the City of Crowley, be it an auditorium, be it whatever you want to call it. But someplace that if there is destruction in the City of Crowley, that we can have some self-sustained building that we can put our citizens in, because God forbid it comes in the heat of the night through a tornado or something that we have no prior warning to, and all of a sudden we in destruction. God bless us that we were lucky. If we have a chance to go from Jennings West, you start tearing up in Jennings, and by the time you get to Lake Charles, you're falling out. I see it every day. The destruction that these people will put through. I'll be honest with you, Nick, the mayor over there, he has an optimistic view, but I just can't see it. My family was displaced. Y'all heard about the family with the carbon monoxide. Matter of fact, the bodies are over here in Crowley. I don't know if they had the bodies are here. Shall I say, our citizens deserve better. Okay? God forbid, like I said, we had prior warning, we had a chance to get out of here, we wasn't sure. But tornadoes come in a blink of an eye. All right? We have raining outside, all of a sudden we get cold front, warm front, there's tornadoes. So I would ask, Jim, is there any way that you being the city engineer, that even to the point of just giving us some leeway on how much it would cost, whether you mimic off the one in Baton Rouge or wherever you mimic off of, to let us get an idea of what it's going to take to safety lives out of the city. And for that matter, anyone that comes in, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't ask them for, where do you live? You don't live in Crowley, you got to go. Saying that no one would return it. But if there's any way possible, I know you got a lot on your plate with this right here, but if there's any way that this can be added, I'll promise each and every one of you, the next time I meet with the governor, I will personally, if I have to beg him to go ahead and put capital outlay money over here, I'll give him some fancy and all the whole Acadiana team. And this is something that we not only want, it's something that we need. And like I said, I was appalled that he had people calling around trying to get shelter for people. And if I'm not mistaken, was it Redemptress? I want to open up their gym?
Yes, it was
Okay.
Redemptress.
You know, God bless them for that. But we had to go to a private entity. You understand what I'm saying? We didn't have something here that the taxpayers can pay. You know, when they pay their taxes, they can say this is ours. So therefore, we take care of our own. And I just want to bring that up because like I said, if you want to see devastation, and we're almost 2 weeks out since the hurricane, if you go there tomorrow, it's like nothing was moving. All the thing that was moved was off the street. Everything is lined up and the houses are horrid. Matter of fact, I'm on my way there when you leave from here, but I just want to ask any way that we can get something like this started. I would appreciate that.
Straight answer, yes, you can add that to the list.
I don't know what it's gonna take, whether it's a special meeting or whatever it is. But I know I'm inclined to vote yes for that in just 10 minutes. And I'm looking around, I see a lot of heads bobbing up and down, going on side to side. So I don't know if we have to have a special meeting or can we just add it on?
Add it here.
That's my wish, I'm hoping everybody else has the same wish.
What, can I ask, what would be the right reference to this facility? I'm not sure what to call it, so I can
Well,
add
it
it.
could be a multi-purpose, everybody's seen that use the term multi-purpose. I mean, multi-purpose includes everything. You know, it may be where we can rent it out as everybody's looking for halls to have, conferences or what have you. Only thing that we have right now in the City of Crowley is the Rice Festival.
And I think, Steph, as long as it's north of I-10, we will be okay.
Well, we have property, no, that's what I'm saying. We
Yeah.
got a service road right there now. I mean, that's a blessing in disguise. You know, we would want something that people can get on and off the highway, the freeway real quick anyway, and easy to find. But whatever it takes, you know, I'm just hoping that something like this can happen, because being the seat of the parish, they were looking at us and asking me, hey, man, what y'all doing in the crowd? Hey, each his own, we're trying to get. So I thank you all for that work. And Tim, I would guess, unless anybody has any other name, I would think multi-purpose work.
Okay, that's fine.
Anybody have any there?
Yeah.
All right.
Ms. Stringfellow?
I mean, we could call it an emergency shelter, and I wanted to ask, some of the other things that were on the list, Mr. Mayor, where did those come from? Like a pavilion, I mean, some of these are needs and some are wants, but I just, was curious about, the list.
Anyone in particular? Some of them are older, much more, some than others. We've been applying for some projects year after year, and we just keep applying. So I'd be glad to address any particular one for how long it's been and where it came from, if I can.
Come on, maybe we help you with that as well. But I know one of the ones, when we first done, what we call it downtown, the streetscape, what?
Yeah, it's
Right, that's a
streetscape.
different
You
program.
remember, we were planning at the end of it to put a big pavilion, like for the Rice Festival, something like what they have in Lane. We were planning on, see, we need to, a lot of you, I don't know if you was on at the time, we were planning on covering the whole parking lot at, the Enterprise Center.
Yeah, Steph, you're right, that was in the next phase.
Right.
Yes.
You know, and I mean, let's face it, most of the time, we've been lucky, you know, when God gave us the weather to have another Rice Festival. That was one of the things that always been a happen. When it started raining, everybody was discouraged. But if you look at the one in rain, I have to say, you know, that Jimbo, when you hit that ball, he hit a home run with that. That thing is used for everything. You know, now that y'all want to put sides on it, when the north wind comes to block the north wind, I'm like, hey, man.
That was a county lot line project too.
Okay.
Well, we'll get that from them and tell them, okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Yes, Mr. Rubin. No. Not yet, we're not through. Okay, Mr. Mayor, are you through with your engineer's report?
Yes, I am, thank you.
Okay. Next is ordinance 1510. Madam Clerk, can you read that, please?
An ordinance to amend and reenact section 3.14 of Article 3 of the zoning ordinance of the City of Crowley by repealing subsection 3.1407, prohibited uses of the special gateway overlay district, to provide for the provisions hereof to be severable to repeal all ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent thereto or in conflict therewith, and to provide for all other matters relative thereto.
Move it ahead.
Move, okay, motion and a second, discussion.
Are we starting from the beginning with this? Or we just gonna amend what we got? That's what I'm asking.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Prater.
I'd just like to go on record again as saying that I'm 100% in favor of changing this ordinance, but I'm 100% against abolishing the prohibited use portion without having something to replace it. And I've said it before and I'll say it again.
Thank you, sir. Okay, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Jeff Cavell,
Yes.
Brad Cooler,
Yes.
Clint Prater,
No.
Bob Fogelman,
Yes.
Gardner Morton,
Yes.
Sammy Reggie,
Yes.
Kevin Stringfellow,
Yes.
and Byron Lewis.
Yes.
7 yeas, 1 no.
All right, motion carries. All right, now we'll go to other business. Okay, Mr. Fogel.
Yes, sir, thank you. I'd like to propose, am I working now? Yes, sir. Got 2 mics. I'd like to propose that a motion be set forth that we direct the city to pursue the study that was proposed by Mr. Prater dealing with the sewer user fee through the agency and individual that he mentioned. LRW.
Okay, do you make a motion?
I make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Whatever they
Okay.
come up with, are we all in the same accord that whatever he comes up, or this person comes up with, is that what we're gonna go with?
Oh, Mr. Point of order. That's calling for it's put in the motion.
Okay, but let's,
You cannot do that.
I'm asking a question.
Okay.
Is it? I
asking
didn't
for a
say it
vote.
will, I said, is it?
Well, I think everyone has their individual vote.
That's
So-
exactly, I'm
Right.
just asking.
So let's vote on this first, and let's get this done, and then y'all can come back and vote on it. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries, and we'll have this done. Okay, now we can have adjournment.
That's so moved.
Thank y'all.
The gentleman, I tell you.
Council, I have, before y'all leave, I have, something for everyone that I'd like to hand out to you.
Oh, you got the pain medication? Doc, you got the pain medication on you, man? No, doc, you ain't got nothing? No. Oh, man. Oh, man, I just right there, took the wrong step on the ladder, man, and fell almost 4 feet.
Is that Reese?
Yeah.
What's up, Doc?
Wait.
You can.
That's gonna be the kind of, and we're going to me. And we're gonna live on, well, so,
But I'll
what is this, what you got in mind?
always.
So you can't build now and get it done next year.
Yeah.
Let the count for every, hey, football season is here. Everybody okay?
No, you won't, that would be a bid. But she could do that, right, bid.
How are you?
It's just questions about the good. Yeah, it's all separate. And that's fine. So that's And this is for the mayor. It's a list of questions about 50% budget. And I wanted to make sure everyone got them at the same time. Okay. So that's why I decided to hand out this capacity. Yeah, and so I have been in contact with the mayor about this. Okay. And so I just, not able to say, I didn't get my email, I didn't get this, I didn't get that. And so that's why I decided to it was printed 10 times. Alrighty. Okay, I'll get it. And it's actually more like, it's his decision that he wants to. Everyone's decision, there's just a simple list of questions and open-ended last questions. They can, if I got some of the same questions. So, however, everyone gets the same opportunity. I'm trying to put it in the same budget, and then everyone will find which also gives the letter. Gives them time if they're not going to finish it, and then at least get it to me by Friday. Okay, when I write the letter. I can write my story. That's my goal. So, because we obviously have conflicting beliefs going on with that. So I wanted to give everyone a chance to get something.
Well, I can tell you this is the first time I've ever, in the 21 years that I've been in the city, this is the first time I've ever experienced.
Yeah, so
These meetings are
yeah, so that's why I wanted to give it to everyone at the same time and like, hey, here you go, everyone has the opportunity to answer these questions, so.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Stevens, get one as far as Tim, Mayor, and give him official contact.
Rusty Reed.
But you better let Todd go ahead of time, just like Chris. All times. We're gonna go to Rusty, who's his boss, and Rusty's gonna decide.
And Aaron, I talked to,
Oh, are you okay? Your foot's injured?
I have sciatic.
Uh-oh, you need to do some yoga. Yoga helps incredibly, I took yoga in college.
opportunity to speak. Okay.
Aaron, you need some help?
It's in my butt cheek and down my leg. And it's been sitting too long. I gotta work itself out. Well, I just love the fact that I can berate everybody we want publicly, but nobody can even attempt to call him out. Oh, yeah, you did very well. You did very well.
Buddy,
Oh,
are we you gonna get on that tomorrow or what? Okay, good.
Know that we're gonna call that because that's what we're at.
So, well, and then, that's right, and then once we requested, or he requested the way it needs to be done, then you could get with him on it, and so on, what we need. And that's fine.
And he does everything.
Right, all right.